The Open Podcast, where your host, Sander Mangel, and his guests share strategies and insights to help digital agencies thrive in a changing world.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show for digital agencies who want to grow smarter, sell better, and stay adaptable in a fast-moving market. I'm Sander Mangel, solutions architect, consultant, and founder of Open Commerce Agency.
And I'm Katie Wilson, partnerships manager and enablement specialist. Each episode, we tackle a new challenge that agency teams face, from sales and strategy through to project delivery and growth.
Today's topic is one that I'm personally excited about, and I know you are as well, Katie, because it can be a game changer for agencies when done right. How to get the most out of platform partnerships. So those tech partners that we work on a daily basis with, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And having spent a good number of years in partnership management, I've really seen firsthand how the right partnerships can really help to transform an agency's trajectory, and also how easy it is to waste time with the wrong approach.
You have, and on both sides of the aisle, right? For agencies as well as partners themselves, I think that gives you a unique perspective. And I think many agencies struggle with those partnerships, right? Some chase too many at once, others fail to leverage the relationships they have, and many aren't even clear on what success even looks like in this area.
Yeah, completely. And today, it has really changed. We've got a lot more complex landscape. We really have to work hard now for partnerships and for customers. And so having the right strategic partnerships in place, I would say more valuable than ever. They're not a nice to have anymore, but really they should be part of every agency's offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And we used to say there's an app for that. Well, now there's a SaaS solution for that, right? Especially in MarTech. It's like there's so many different ones. So it's hard to figure out which one is the right one. But let's start with the foundational question. Why, Katie, in your expert opinion, why should agency partners with platforms and solutions in the first place? What's really in it? I think there's sometimes maybe a misperception that becoming a partner means you suddenly have an endless supply of leads flowing in with partners throwing them at you. But I'm curious about your experience. What should agencies realistically expect?
Completely. And that's a great place to start. And I think, to your point, is one of the biggest misconceptions. Let's kind of hit that straight away. If you're partnering with tech partners, with third parties, resellers, etc., if you're doing that solely to get leads as a lead revenue stream, more likely than not, you will end up disappointed. Now, that doesn't mean that referrals won't happen or won't happen organically. They absolutely do. But if you're after those as the main value driver, then that's probably the wrong approach, especially at the start of that partnership.
Well, you just crushed my dreams as an agency owner, but if it's not primarily about lead generation, what then are the benefits? Why would I even bother? Because it does take quite a bit of time on any given month.
Yeah, completely. And the way that I like to look and approach partnership is really to kind of segment them into three priorities or three different buckets, if you will. So the first, and I believe this is the start point when you're entering a new partnership or when you've signed that new partnership, is to think about it firstly about enablement and expertise. So when you take a new partnership up, what do you get? You get access to training, oftentimes certification. You will have assets and materials such as advanced documentation. Some of those programs, depending on the partner level that you come in at, will offer you beta features and beta programs. And you will often get direct lines to product teams, which is really valuable. And that can actually dramatically accelerate your team's expertise, which translates directly to better client outcomes. So that's priority. Secondly, you've got credibility and positioning. Being an official partner with those platforms will instantly elevate your agency status in the client's eyes. So if they're looking and doing their own due diligence, if you're an official partner, you will automatically be aligned to them and people will think that you're a subject matter expert. So it's really powerful external validation to potential customers, existing clients looking to grow their services with you. It's validation that you're not just an agency, you're actually recognized by the platforms, by the customers as a knowledgeable expert in their field. And then to go back to the first point around leads, there is a commercial advantage. But this just doesn't include referrals. It's also around co-selling opportunities and how you can go directly to clients together with a joint business case, a joint offering. There could also be potential discounts you have with that partner. You've also got marketplace visibility on their website and marketing communications they do. And sometimes some of those partners even offer financial incentives for implementation. So there is commercial advantage. It just might not look like a direct lead.
I love that. So let's say 2 and 3 are more on helping you go to market, fill that pipeline, get some leads in, especially the second one, I think, right? Especially when you're tackling bigger potential builds, it helps just to have those badges. And then I think the first one is really important, where, you assess a partner on the fact, do they have decent documentation, right? If I hand this over to my team, to my developers, will they know how to actually implement that? Or are they just going to be struggling, burning unbillable hours, trying to figure out how to get this to work? So I think, that makes a lot of sense. So can you give me some concrete examples of what that would look like for an agency?
Completely, yeah. So on the enablement front, an agency, let's say you become a top tier Shopify Plus partner, just for example. If you're, let's say, getting ready to access some of their new B2B features, and this could be months before public release. And that means you need to prepare your team, you need to be ready because you're going to be first to market with specialized services when these features are launched. So by having that partnership with Shopify, being on their beta program, you're going to be able to see what these features are going to be. You're going to be able to test them. You're going to be able to even maybe apply them to one of your customers with agreement from them. So you can test and give active feedback and start to think about how you can apply those to the rest of your base. So for credibility, I have worked with and seen lots of agencies win some of those contracts primarily because they had partners badges with their competitors lacked. So for many clients, especially the larger, maybe the enterprise clients, those official partnerships are a prerequisite to get in the door, and having those additional services, as mentioned, like the B2B, that will really help as well to to segment those customers to show your area of expertise. On the commercial side of things, for example, it could be that there's a marketing agency and they are working with HubSpot as one of their strategic partners, and they co-create a case study with them. That piece of content is then endorsed by HubSpot. So you've got that partner giving you credibility. They've done it as a co-create piece. That could help to directly generate new business. And that's not because HubSpot directly walked that client through the door, but because the agency leveraged your relationship with them, with that content throughout that marketing.
That makes absolute sense. So something comes to mind. We've been working together with our sister agency in the US, Above the Fray. We've been working on getting started with Adobe SaaS. Right, their new offering, Adobe Commerce SaaS. Basically, it's the same Adobe Commerce with some added features running on their servers, and you cannot touch the code. Super new product. Documentation is out there, but as always with any platform, new products have very flimsy documentation. So we've been leaning heavily on the partnership with Adobe to get access to some of their product managers. Fantastic team. They're doing like weekly calls. You can reach out to them by email to get some extra materials. And that has been just fundamental in getting our first proof of concept to a point where we're now relatively comfortable with App Mesh and all those new features. So I think that's where we really saw the benefit of having the partnership. And on the other side, on more the credibility side, so we've been in early engagements with one of the customers of Above the Fray to potentially move towards Adobe Commerce SaaS, right? And I think having that backing from Adobe and having the partner manager underline how much effort we've been putting into really helped, or really is helping with the credibility to sell this to the customer, right? Because ultimately they will have to do some investing. And then maybe on the commercial side, what we already were thinking, of course, is we're potentially are going to launch one of the earliest or earlier SaaS projects. Maybe we can do some conference talks on that. Maybe we can do some content on that. Absolutely, have Adobe endorse some of that. So I think what you're saying is resonating so much because here with this project we already saw the benefits. So I love that. So maybe I completely validate that, but I still want to get back to those endless supplies of leads. Katie, tell me, what can I expect?
Well, I don't think you should expect an endless supply, but I do agree with your point. Like if you are an early adopter and you are actively working with that partner, especially when it comes to a new product and helping them to support it and help to give them feedback and evangelize, you're definitely going to be front of mind. And as you say, if there then is opportunities for you to then showcase how you've worked with them and embrace that, maybe got a client case, then they are likely to be more willing to support you. Because ultimately platforms really want to get successful cases. That should be what we're all aiming for, to get successful clients. And so I think wherever there's opportunity to be able to contribute to those new products and to help support, you will definitely see more engagement from the partners. But whether that results in an endless supply of leads, I really don't think so. I think that any platform that comes to you as an agency promising that, they're probably going to be setting you and the team up for disappointment. But I think what you can realistically expect is once we've done those foundational pieces we talked about earlier on and built those solid relationships, is to have occasional high-value referrals. That those partners will know your sweet spot. They should know your ideal customer profile. They know where you've won. They know where you've got successful clients. So they're going to be able to better identify the right opportunities for you. And once they've done that, they're probably going to be higher value clients. So they do tend to be larger opportunities that are a really good fit for you. But here's the critical point. These referrals typically always come after you've proven your value. Okay, so you have successful implementations with them. You've probably got some case studies. You've got experience under your belt with both the technical team on the delivery and the commercial team to show that you can actually convert. And also being a good partner, actively participating in their ecosystem, going to their events, participating in beta. You're showing a good partnership. And that will probably lead to better bi-directionality and, to your point, occasional high-value leads.
Katie, this is starting to sound more and more like a long-term relationship building exercise with a lot of investing than just getting some quick wins in. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I see more often than not is it where it's the other way around, where we've either been promised something by the partner or we've gone into that thinking that that's going to fill a short-term funnel. And then transactionally, they do tend to fail on that because they need to change their mindset. So what I always tend to advise agencies when I'm working with them is to really flip that way of thinking. So instead of saying or taking the approach of what can they do for me, let's start to think about, well, what can we achieve together? What can we actually bring to this partnership? How can we be directional? How can we grow a long-term partnership here that's going to help benefit our customers and make them more successful? And once you start to think of it in those terms and with that philosophy, then the mindset shift changes everything.
Yeah, and I would probably also want to call out that is maybe something that partners also should be mindful of, right? Because the number of potential partnerships I've tried to open where basically they wouldn't talk to me until I brought in a lead, right? No training, no whatever. I'm like, I'm not going to bring you a lead if I don't know the solution, right? How can I bring you a solution that it makes no sense? And I think one of the companies that did it very well was Inventory Planner by Sage. Like they have been absolutely amazing in investing in the relationship early on. Now, granted, we did start the partnership off with a lead, but it wasn't, the biggest one for sure. And even before that got signed, they already had a, demo call planned with me, working towards onboarding, that kind of stuff. So it just felt so much more value for me as an agency instead of just, okay, when is the next lead coming in? I'm like, it's just not going to work.
No, and don't get me wrong, like when you're taking on a new technology, especially where there's developers concerned with that, then it is time off the bench, if you like, to train them up. And of course, that is at a cost. And I think a lot of, maybe partners that haven't been around as long do need an education in that. But certainly for platform partners, then they will know that that is an investment, not just in monetary terms, but time in those developers. But at the same time, without that expertise, how do you identify those opportunities? How do you know that that is the right fit? So you have to go through that, and that is an investment in the business. And a lot of times, some partnerships will offer like walk, jog, run approach as well, where they'll maybe work with you on some of those first opportunities and give you some of their own kind of project management time just to help to make that more successful. So it's always worth asking them, how do they approach, you've gone through that enablement, how do they actually approach helping you on those projects? Because again, there's more likely to be the additional credibility once you've got that project and it's live, it's working, you've got that client saying that they're really happy with it. That's also great marketing for them.
Yeah, I think that's a whole extra episode we can do on as a follow-up on this one, like how should you get enabled as a partner. But let's not rabbit hole just yet, and let's talk about co-marketing opportunities. How significant are those? Because those beyond, well, I mean, there's a training hub, and that, yes, it takes time, and normally on the first project you're suffering from some unbillable hours, but then co-marketing again takes so much time, right? You need to have a marketing person that engages with them. You need to have your solution specialists, your matter experts that engage with them to create that co-marketing piece. So how significant is that in the relationship?
Sure. I mean, from my perspective, it's enormously valuable because when you are working with your partners, they will often be offering co-branded documentation, co-branded assets, materials. So you're probably working with either a partner marketing manager there and certainly marketing teams. By working with them directly, you're borrowing their credibility and reach and often access to a lot of their materials as well. So it might be that you don't have to create everything from new. And a lot of times they will already have things that have worked well in the past that can be repackaged or repurposed. So for example, like joint webinars, the events that they've gone to in the past where you as the agency can come in and take like a foundational basis and then co-create that to your own end. So you do a joint webinar, you can co-author content, either things like specific white papers that you're doing from your point of view, or it could be that case study once that client has gone live. There also could be speaker slots at partner events. So whether going back to the Adobe piece there, whether that's, your agency was first to market with some of these products, or it could be that you're bringing a customer along to speak at an event. They're really giving you an opportunity to shine and showcase your expertise to potential new customers. So I think the key point I'm trying to make is that the value is you're reaching audiences that you wouldn't normally access on your own because you're being given the platform via that partners forums as well. So they're amplifying that marketing, and you're also doing it with the implicit endorsement of them. They are physically endorsing you by saying, here we go, here is co-created content, here it is on our channels. And that can speak absolute volumes.
Absolutely, pretty much beats any kind of LinkedIn inspirational post you can do as a founder. All right, and any other benefits we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at like successful partnerships, I think something that gets missed is the insider knowledge aspect. So partners will often get information ahead of the customers. So for example, things like product roadmaps, it could be industry trends via kind of key speakers or white papers that you're getting access to, and also competitive insights that others may not have at that point. That's certainly a key benefit of having a strategic partnership. There's also networking effects. So if you're in a partner program, you'll often be able to connect with, or even maybe partner with, depending on the business case, with other agencies and technology providers. So thinking maybe triangulation in many times, but those additional relationships and you're doing that networking can actually lead to referral relationships. So it might not have come direct through the partnership you signed to, but indirect through those other relationships that you've connected with. It could be that you can take on subcontracting opportunities, potentially even acquisitions. So that's also something to be mindful of. And then I think the word strategic gets bandied about, but if we really look to kind of streamline partnerships and where the most successful partnerships are, it is that strategic alignment. And what I mean by that is it's when you really deeply have been enabled, you really deeply understand the solutions, and you align with platforms that your clients really are investing in, and you become more valuable and embedded in your client's business. So you're not just then implementing a solutions, you're being able to advise them and help them to future-proof their business, and also to be an advisor on their technology ecosystem as well. So there's definitely other benefits of having these partnerships and having a deeper relationship with them.
Yeah, I love that you call it out. I think so often agencies end up just being the implementer of the latest MarTech solution instead of being a trusted advisor that can actually recommend a solution, explain why it brings value, right? Not just for the e-commerce manager, but through to the wider organization. And then, also help enable that client on that solution, right? Not just here's a login, go and have a look, but really doing change management, doing the rollout, what have you. So maybe on that strategic partnering, that's a good segue. Should agencies try to partner with as many platforms as possible, or should I be more selective?
It's a great question. And I do think one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen and I'm seeing is this kind of collect them all approach when it comes to partnerships, and not necessarily having lots of breadth, but not necessarily the depth.
Right, like a Pokemon, but for partner badges, right?
Exactly. And it is understandable, like each partnership just seemed to open a new opportunity door, and you can get dangled all of those carrots. So it is enticing. But I think when it comes down to it, the reality is that partnerships require a significant investment. As we've talked about with various different teams being trained and enabled, it's also an ongoing investment you need to maintain, and you need to be able to maximize to win those opportunities. So you really need to consider what each partnership is offering you and where it adds value. And every partnership that you add ultimately divides your limited resources further up.
Yeah, and I think what you mentioned there is it adds to credibility. But if you are a partner of a platform and then you not have the faintest clue of their features and functionalities, it can also quickly destroy your credibility, right? So that's a good point. So how selective should an agency be?
I think to try to be more curated. So I think one of the approaches that I see works well, or has certainly worked better than most, is where agencies really deeply focus on probably no more than 4. So probably the sweet spot, I would say, would be 2 to 4 real strategic partnerships. So these are the ones that you're going to be having probably weekly cadence with. You're going to be engaged through the kind of the C-level and kind of peer-to-peer relationship. So it might not be the same person speaking all the time, but you've got real good alignment on there. And I think that's going to really help to generate you as the agency far more value than trying to main, 10, 20 plus what I would call kind of surface level relationships.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, but I think the second one kind of tags on to the first one. So what criteria should agencies use to select a partnership? And maybe in addition to that, if you're saying they should be, you have 2 to 4 foundational partnerships with aligning often, meeting the C-level, it doesn't sound like me as open commerce is going to have that kind of a relationship with the Adobe, Shopwares and Shopify's of this world.
No. So I would really recommend as an agency, you evaluate potential partnership. And I kind of use this kind of 5 key dimension approach. So first of all, let's look at our clients and think about how we can align our clients. So what platforms are they currently using today? Or what platforms are they considering? And where is your existing expertise when it aligns with those platforms? So this should be really the foundation of where you start. The second would be the market opportunity. So is that platform growing? Is it declining? Is it serving the industries and the client types that you want to work with? Or is there enough market demand to support those business goals for you to make that investment? Are you seeing enough demand coming through? And you can kind of garner that by speaking to clients, seeing from events, reading different white papers, but just doing your due diligence on that marketing opportunity. Third is the kind of the competition. So how saturated is that ecosystem? Are all the agencies partnering with them? Where do you see you fitting in? What is the USP that you're bringing to it, or where you could carve out a relationship together? So are there kind of clear gaps with your expertise that you could fill? Sometimes it is better to be a standout partner for an emerging platform than the 100th partner for a market-leading platform. You've got to try to find your space where you can. The fourth one is around those resource requirements that we spoke of. So different partnerships will demand different investments of time, money, and team focus. So I think, again, looking at your team and the resources available, we really have to be realistic about what you can commit to, and making sure that, you are able to meet those requirements and be able to deliver everything that platform is asking of you. And then the fifth one, and I think is really important, is around that cultural and strategic fit. From a DNA perspective and values perspective, do your values actually align with the platform? How are they treating their partners today that you can establish? Are they really collaborating? Or are you just a sales channel, a sales funnel for them? It's not so easy to assess at the start, but I do think it's critical for long-term success. And where you could certainly start to is any agencies that you have good relationships with that are maybe already working with those platforms, ask them, how is your relationship? How are you finding working with their partner team? How are you finding working with their management team? Are you finding it easy to get access? So again, doing your due diligence. But I think it's really important for that long-term success to get that cultural strategic fit.
Okay, that is super comprehensive. I do need to be mindful of the time, so I'll speed up my questions a little bit. So given those requirements, right, how would you advise smaller agencies to approach partnerships? Should they still be selective, or do they maybe even need to focus more?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think actually for smaller agencies, you have to be ruthless and be merely selective. That's really critical given the size of the team. So I'd really recommend for smaller agencies to start with just one primary partnership and invest deeply in that relationship before expanding out. But on the positive side is that for smaller agencies, they often have an advantage on partnerships if they do focus on specializations. So platforms can really value partners who can serve specific niches or specific industry types, even in specific regions, if they have deep expertise. So let's take a scenario. So let's say you're a 10-person agency and you've become the go-to Salesforce partner for nonprofits in their region. So their focused expertise has made them really more valuable to both Salesforce and to the clients in that sector that make much larger generalist agencies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what about platforms that require like a certain revenue commitment or other specific achievements to maintain partner status? How should agencies factor those in when they're making their decision, right? Because you mentioned Salesforce, they do ask for a bit of commitment there.
Yeah, they do. And there are definite KPIs to a lot of partnerships, especially the more, so let's take generic kind of bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The higher up those levels you are, then of course the KPIs are definitely going to increase. But then at the same time with that becomes greater exposure for you. I think that for agencies that are being asked to have KPIs, they really need to do a clear-eyed analysis of whether they can actually realistically meet and also maintain those requirements. And if you're barely qualifying for a specific partnership tier and you're, let's say, year after year struggling to maintain it, I think that partnership actually might be creating more stress than value in the long term. So I think that's then time to kind of reevaluate that partnership or reevaluate the tier that you're in.
So that leads me maybe to some common pitfalls that I'd love to talk about. What are maybe the top 2 or 3 pitfalls that you have seen out there?
Yeah. The first one, kind of going back to some of the things we discussed at the start, is around that transactional mindset. So going in, start of a new partnership, and you're expecting immediate ROI and focusing solely on lead generation rather than that relationship building. That's the first one that I see. The second one is overcommitting. So you're trying to maintain too many partnerships, and the reality is you're probably going to not be excelling at any of them. The third one I would say is inconsistent engagement. So it could be that you do have lots of bursts of activity, and then maybe behind the scenes it's taking longer to be able to do things, develop things. So it could be that that's followed by kind of long periods of silence. So there's not kind of consistency and engagement there. Another one that I also see is kind of poor internal communication. So maybe misalignment or not aligning internally. So ensuring that your delivery teams actually understand the importance of that partnership and what success matrix looks like, what the program requirements are, and educating internally, because often I'll see that different teams don't really understand exactly what's being committed to. And the last one I would say is kind of that failure to specialize. So either not developing and communicating a kind of clear value proposition within the partner ecosystem, an early enough opportunity, I would say.
All right. Yeah, I think there's a lot of partnerships out there where maybe the marketing team has heard of it, the leadership team, and then sales developers, they never knew they were partners, right?
Exactly.
That's just embarrassing. So how should we avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah, it's a good point. So definitely starting with clear strategy and focus. So defining what success does look like for each partnership and ensuring it aligns with what is the overall company goal, what is the overall business goal. I think definitely taking the time to invest in relationship management systems and processes. So not relying on ad hoc interactions and making sure that, that we're recording things, following up with things, making the commitments, and then communicating that partnership priorities across your entire organization. So not just keeping it siloed within sales and marketing. So whether that's like a regular town hall, whether that is a weekly meeting, or however that kind of looks like within your team, making sure that you communicate that. And then also just being a bit patient. Partnership value definitely compounds over time. It just rarely delivers immediate results. So I think as long as you're making that clear to management within the team and setting realistic expectations, then they will be prosperous. It will just take time to get there.
I love that. All right, let's wrap up with a rapid fire, Katie. Couple of nuggets of wisdom here from you. So first off, what is your top takeaway for agencies looking to maximize the value?
I would say to approach partnerships as a strategic asset that requires investment. It is not just marketing channels. The agencies I see that get the most from partnerships see them as fundamental to the business model. They're not just nice to have additions.
All right. And let's say I want to get serious about partnerships. What's the first thing that I should be doing?
Yeah. So firstly, conduct a really honest audit of what your current partnerships are and also your client base. Let's look to identify where you've already succeeded naturally and then look to double down there before you expand. I would personally say that one really excellent partnership will really generate a lot more value for you than 5 mediocre ones.
Most underrated partnership activity?
Most underrated. Connecting your delivery teams directly with that platform's product specialists. So, for example, those practitioner level relationships, they will often generate the most valuable insights and opportunities. So making sure that you're aligning those teams together as quickly as you can, I think that will lead to good long-term growth.
And the most overrated partnership benefit?
The partner badge. It's not a differentiator to have that partner badge. Lots of partners will have that badge. It's definitely table stakes, not a differentiator.
Right. Yeah, if I were already at the table with a lead and they're choosing between different partners, right there, it might make a difference, not them looking for. All right. Best way to stand out to a partner platform?
Solving problems. It might be solving problems they don't necessarily know that they have. So looking to bring them insights, either based on your customers' usage or your expertise in the market. So bringing them insights, any specialized expertise that you might have to help them either improve their roadmap or add to their roadmap. And also giving them access to maybe markets they can't easily access elsewhere. So that could be that you're working with specific industries and verticals that they haven't been able to penetrate that yet. If you're able to bring them into some of those opportunities, then you will make yourself a really powerful partner to them.
Love that. Katie, your expertise in this field really shines through. So does your passion for it. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I mean, I personally learned a lot, even though we've been talking about this for a long time. I think open commerce does need to have that, honest, honest of their tech partner network. Thank you all for tuning into the Adaptive Agency podcast. I really hope this episode gave you a clear roadmap for working with your tech partnerships, because it is so important.
It really is. No, thank you, Sander. I really enjoyed this conversation. And if you also enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow, leave us a review, and share it with your team. We'll see you next time.